Hi, everybody. It's Susan, and today I'm happy to talk about something a little more pleasant than we've been having to deal with in the last little while, although we're still in the middle of it, but we're just going to put things to one side and look at these more uplifting patterns that are available to us. Venus is moving up to conjoin Jupiter, and they happen to be also conjoining Sirius, which is the brightest star in our close universe. And so this is a very interesting occasion, very special occasion. I want to emphasize the Jupiter quality of this thing rather than the Sirius quality, but I do have to address that elephant in the room, or the lion in the room, as it were, because I just every year get harassed by people to tell them more about it. And I kind of left a little bit of a joke in the last video, which was about the full moon in Aquarius, which you can still watch if you haven't seen that, because the full moon itself is happening on the 9th of the month. So today I'm recording this on Venus's day on Friday, the 8th of August, which is supposed to be this awesome day. But let me just reframe this. So I did in that full moon video mention that at the end of the video, if you followed carefully through the whole video, you would find out what I thought about this whole Lionsgate 8-8 stuff. And I didn't say anything. And some people noticed that I didn't say anything. So that just is to tell you what I think about it. But, at the end of the day, I just can't take any more people asking me what I think about it. So I'm just going to tell you what I have to answer every year at this time, which is that it's not astrology. This is something that has been some kind of recent, really within 10 or 15 years, I think, contaminant that comes through social media. This was not even a thing when I first started learning astrology. Nobody was talking about this. Maybe three people, and I'm not even sure they mentioned the numerological aspect of it either. So uh, I'm not going to go into why people think that there's anything exciting about this, but I do want to acknowledge that if you're into whatever you're into, whatever floats your boat, you do that. Because if you believe it, it's going to be true, good or bad. But it's again not astrology. So I just want to make that really clear. It's something that for me, I distinguish. It's hard enough to actually describe oneself as being an astrologer without getting enough ridicule from people. I find that particularly hard as I shifted from a highly intellectual area of life to this very sadly non-intellectual area of life. And so my ego takes a hit each time there's a slight whiff of nonsense. And it's, again, as I said, it's hard enough to defend astrology as it is. So let's not make it worse than it already is to try and show people that it's actually meaningful. We lose a lot of credibility when we just make up shit, basically. One of the things that is very true is that astrologically speaking, we can say that there is an approximation of Sirius, Jupiter, and Venus in the sky. If we look at the sky at particular times of the day, early in the morning in this case, it will start to be visible, but Venus and Jupiter would actually be much higher in longitude. So we're not able to see them together. Astrologically, they appear to be all together, clustered together, but they don't appear that same way if we were to look at them in the sky. So Sirius is always there in the brightest part of the sky. It's the easiest star to find, let's say, in the sky. It's relatively close, meaning only 5.5 something light years away. And so it is a star that we're familiar with. It's just that the heliacal rising is happening in this time of the year, and it happens in a different time and a different day all over the world. So if you're listening from Australia, it's not going to happen at the same time as if you're listening from New York, for example. So that's one thing. So the 8th of August, I'm not even sure why everybody gets excited about that, especially if you don't live in Egypt, and even if you do. What I would suggest is, because Julia Sima says the same irk as I do, um, she is from the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, which I find a brilliant tongue-in-cheek association of very serious astrologers. And she's done a bit for Kepler College. So if you look for a YouTube video on the Kepler College channel from maybe 2 days back, she's done a video on that. And so you'll get way more information about what this actually is and why there is nothing seriously to get excited about, and why so much of it is blending things that actually are not even possible astrologically. And I just want to kind of emphasize that point by reading off some of the clickbait headlines that I saw on the titles of YouTube videos that were proposed to me over the last 3 or 4 days or so. Um, massive abundance portal, jump timelines with the Lionsgate, huge wealth abundance. That's one title, one title. Everything changes on 8/8. I hope you're aware. Nobody gives a time, by the way. Astrologically, we want to time things. It's like we can say, okay, well, the Venus conjunct Jupiter is happening 6:15, even and 18 seconds of universal time. But 8/8, it's just happening. So just get on it. 8/8, everything changes. Brace for the August 8th reset. Brace for it, people. The day everything changes for you, people. Everything. 8th of August. There you are. Don't miss this day, because I guess you missed that then. Are you ready for 8/8? I don't know what you need to do to get ready. The question is, are you ready? 2025 Lionsgate, the split has begun. I don't know what this split is. Split personality. I don't know. I don't know. What are we splitting? Nothing is separate from anything else. If we get really down to the bare bones of reality, there is nothing outside of our consciousness. Nothing is outside of consciousness. So where's this split? Energy overload alert. And then in parentheses, I never expected this. I almost clicked on that one because, I mean, my God. And then activating our healing, ascension, and creativity. So all I have to say to that is it doesn't work like that, people. If we have a placement that's very close to these places, we could almost maybe kind of say that something along those lines could happen. And I'll go sign by sign and we'll discuss this. But these kinds of events need to trigger something very personal. And already we're talking about something that is very near in our solar system, as opposed to something that is very far, and therefore, although bright, it's not necessarily going to trigger anything unless you've got something within a degree of a planet or personal placement. Now, Sirius is very interesting because it does, as the brightest star in our usually nighttime sky, it's very clear. People have been using it as a timing device in cultures around the world, and every culture has a different way of describing it. Every culture has a different way of giving it importance. Julia describes that really well, so I'll let her tell that story. But one of the things that is generally ascribed to it is some kind of a feeling of beneficence, or some kind of a feeling of abundance, because especially in the Egyptian story, which is what everybody holds out every year in August, is that there is some there's some relationship to the agricultural year and the flooding of the Nile River basin, which is of course going to create abundant crops. So we're several thousand years removed from that, and most of us haven't put foot on real earth for probably years or at least months. And so these things have a different significance in our time and in our culture. So we really want to stop, first of all, culturally appropriating things, and also mixing everything together so that it means at the end of the day nothing at all. When we clump everything together, it stops having any meaning at all. And, then the rest of the year you get on with it and you forget that you were supposed to change everything on 8/8 or whatever it is. And even numerologically speaking, it's not accurate, because if you work with numerology according to the calendar that we use, you're meant to add up every single number and then reduce it. So this notion of 8/8 actually reduces to 7 if we only take the month and the day. And then, we're looking at, I guess 7 plus, what is it this year? It's a 5 year. No, is it a 9 year? I can't remember what we're in. Yeah, 9 year. So we're reducing back to 7 either way. So again, let's try not to get excited about things that are really beyond our grasp, beyond our control, and just in many cases simply made up. So if you're looking at things like these kinds of exciting clickbait titles, just realize that that's not going to bring you closer to understanding yourself. It's always going to create an emotional reaction, get you hyped up and then excited about something and then disappointed because for some reason it won't necessarily affect you. And some people will say it's about money and abundance. Other people will say, no, it's about spiritual awakening and ascension. I don't know, where are you going, people? Like, uh, I don't know what these things are supposed to mean because people are saying they're meaning different things. Anyway, if you want to know more about that, please don't ask me. Find an authority, find somebody who actually cares about the factual stuff and is not going to just tell you nice things. And again, having said that, whatever floats your boat, you do the thing that makes you happy, that brings you peace. But all of these kinds of things build up a kind of an expectation. And whenever we expect something, we are programming ourselves for disappointment. That's kind of how life works. And that really is without exception. Right. So, what I want to also mention before we get into the more sort of closer to home, let's say astrology, is that the Sirius is adding a bit of a glow to this conjunction. So it's really extraordinary that it's all happening together. And so if there is anything to get excited about, I think it really is happening from that 8-8, or I would even say 9-8, we do it the European way over here, 9th of August time frame until the 12th or 13th of August, where Venus and Jupiter are really, really tightly conjoined. And especially conjunctions tend to have most effect, well, all aspects have effect really most powerfully when they're building up. Another thing I want to say about this in terms of the fixed star aspect is that those conjunctions are the way to measure it again, like within a degree or two. The brighter the star, the greater the amplitude, the greater the degree. So it's a 2 degree 50 magnitude. You can say up to 2 degrees 50 arc minutes of a degree. I tend to give it 2 degrees in terms of conjoining either way. And if you look at your natal chart, it won't be at 14 degrees 25 minutes of tropical Cancer, unless you're born now, but it will be potentially up to a degree or a degree and a half away from where it is. So in the 1930s, it was at around 13 degrees. It started to move towards the 14th degree. My generation, the 60s, it's 13 and a half roughly degrees of Cancer. And now here we are finally 20, not even 2025. I'm still traumatized by 2012 too. 2025, we've got 14 degrees, 25 minutes. So you see these are moving in relationship to our zodiac, the tropical zodiac, which tracks the movements of the sun, not the movement of the star. If we take it sidereally, it's not going anywhere because the stars are the fixed point, which is why they're fixed stars. They don't change. It's us in terms of the solar movement that is changing. Right. So all of that to say, you can't have a wide orb. You can't have, in my way of looking at it, oppositions, squares, trines, and so on to these fixed stars. They traditionally were always points of conjunction. I know some people do give them squares and oppositions and all of that kind of thing. It's difficult to know how to interpret that, so I don't. That's me doing me, you do you. But I wanted to point out, since we are on the subject of these fixed stars, I don't normally bring them into things unless there's a really close conjunction, like we had, for example, with Algol and Uranus when it got to 27-ish degrees of Gemini. At that point, it's very interesting because there was a slow-moving outer planets, or there are rare things that are happening, and then it's interesting to talk about the fixed stars. Now, of course, if it's your natal chart, that's also very interesting. I happen to have my moon on Sirius, so I'm serious about Sirius. I'll take it personally. That's why I get, the fact that I actually have had Sirius on my moon while learning all this astrology and only recently discovered this thing about the Lionsgate shows you just how little people were talking about it up until recent social media times. Anyway, to move on to the fixed star story, I want to also just point out that we also have Altair on Pluto, or rather Pluto on Altair, and that has already been for 2 years, basically. So Altair is currently at 2 degrees 8 minutes, so we could really kind of say a year and a half, not really 2 years entirely. So it is a very close proximity to Pluto, and this will be the last pass that Pluto makes so close to Altair before it starts to move off in 2026. So that alone is also very interesting. So I wrote some things down that I wanted to point out because they're similar again in the dynamic of the Venus and Jupiter conjunction, which I will delineate in a minute, I promise. Just let me get my rant out of my system. The Altair has the Mars-Jupiter quality, which is about real assertion, but in a way that creates some kind of expansion or some kind of energy that is about being visionary, being driven to do something. And so that's very interesting, isn't it? That this is coming together with Sirius. And so there is something really unique about this time that we can actually describe astrologically, that we can actually describe by these conjunctions in the rarity of the moment. And I think you've probably heard ad nauseum about how rare these times are. So the combination of Pluto with Altair is again that transformational quality of Pluto, this regenerative quality, and then the same kind of quality of Altair with Mars, Jupiter, according to Ptolemy, the ancient astrologer. And in his writings on the fixed star, he says that that Mars, Jupiter quality of Altair is really about being an inspired leader or doing something in a new way or creating reform. So we want to hold that in mind while all of this is going on, and then I get to the delineation. You can keep that in mind as well. It's about also this notion of something that is expanding in the Jupiterian sense in a direction, an energetic direction, which is of course the Mars aspect, and the Pluto, well, although it's retrograde, is also of course in Aquarius, and so that tells us something about the dynamic of these times socially, right, or in terms of our vision for the future, which is anyway part of the bigger picture. And I wrote as a short form for this period of time somewhere. I wrote this. Where did I write this? Yeah, in general, if we think about this period of time, I'm going to extend it from 8/8. Hold on to your whatever it is, folks, from 8/8 until the 12th-ish of August. Sorry, there's somebody on the phone. Let me just hang on. Sorry about that. I'm back. And yeah, I'm in my mother's apartment. She's in hospital for the last 7 weeks, some of you know, and I have to. She's got this landline that never stops, and I can't unplug it because of the potential for having messages about her. So pardon that interruption. It's all go here. Anyway, so and again, as I pointed out, this is all happening on my moon, which of course represents the mother. We were talking about Pluto, Aquarius. Where else were we going with this? Pluto, Aquarius, Altair. Yeah, so there's something here in the energy of this whole time between the Friday and let's say the Monday, Tuesday, really culminating Monday and Tuesday as Jupiter and Venus become exact in their conjunction. But also, we can give it a few days after that because even in the separation, there's still going to be some interesting dynamics, and I'll point to other things in a minute. This is really a time of this big shift that we're in, and it's the theme, overall theme, like the Jupiter Mars thing about Altair, for example, is really this notion of security. What is security? What is our, especially with reference to the Cancer dynamic, our national security, our family security, our emotional security? The moon represents our psychology as well. So all of these things are pointing in the same basic direction. We can think of material security as well. Of course, that's part of what makes us feel stable as humans. For those of you ascending, maybe don't care any longer about that, but you know, yeah, so this is a time where we have to combine that notion of courage, because remember we were talking about the Mars, Jupiter in terms of the definition of Altar given by Ptolemy, and this feeling of expansion and and brightness and potential for awakening, insight and so on. That is also part of what Sirius is also contributing here, and abundance as well, which is also conferred by Venus and Jupiter. And so we're really looking at something where we want to get sort of deep within ourselves, rather than this notion that's more dualistic of ascending somewhere, like you're actually going somewhere. Come into yourself at this time where you can really start to recognize, where do I feel insecure about myself? With Aquarius, insecurity can come around a challenge to an ideology that you hold. The notion of The Cancer version, it can be a challenge to your family or a challenge to your nation and your national jingoism, for example. Those things can cause insecurity of the ego. And that, of course, feels threatening, even though it's not necessarily life-threatening. So it's really interesting for you to go deep inside yourself and start to notice these things. It's always happening inside. Nothing's happening on the outside, despite what the clickbait headlines are telling us. Um, if I come then to Shiat, so Shiat is at 29 and 44, currently 29:44 Pisces. I have this on my Mercury, and so it's like a degree, almost a degree, or at least 45 minutes of a degree earlier in Pisces. But nonetheless, again, if you give it a degree on either side, by transit and maybe 2 degrees on either side by a natal placement. That's the best way of working with this. Oh God, now let's not get the dog involved. Yes, sorry, just a minute. My dog wants to go out now. You can see this Jupiter Venus is causing a whole lot of activity in my experience. Hang on, I'll be right back. Sorry, everybody. It's almost comically busy at the moment, and I now have to leave the door open because my dog wanted to go out, which she literally never does, onto the balcony, which is on a very busy road. And so we're bound to hear a bunch of stuff. So I hope that my microphone is only picking up my voice. And I'll have to get up again and get the dog to come back in. So, um, where were we? Shiat. So the moon, the reason why I'm bringing in Shiat as well. So Altair is there with Pluto. We've got Sirius here with Jupiter and Venus. And then we've got Shiat, which is about to be conjoined by the moon just 5 hours after this Venus and Jupiter conjunction, which of course includes Sirius a short while after. So why does that matter? It matters not only because the moon is about to reach there, although it does that literally every month, but it's because the moon is ruling Venus and Jupiter. And there's a really beautiful, and this is where I find that we can let go of all this Lionsgate stuff and say, yes, it is a very special moment. It is absolutely magic. And this year, particularly, bringing us something really, really lovely, nothing to do with the other stuff, because there's a beautiful, what is known as a mutual generosity. It's not actually in an orb of an aspect, a traditional aspect, which would make it a mutual reception between Jupiter, which is ruling the moon in Pisces, and Venus, which is the exaltation ruler of the moon in Pisces, and also the moon, which is ruling this Venus and Jupiter. And it's just such a lovely combination, even independent of all of the other stuff. So I wanted to bring this in here because it's something that is it's enriching an already rich astrological tableau. And I wanted to also emphasize that we don't need to over dramatize things to find the answers to what we're looking for. And if you're piping things constantly, trying to add more to try and understand what's going on in this time, you get farther and farther and farther away from what can be a lived experience, because it's literally impossible, statistically impossible for everybody to be experiencing this in the same way. That's why it's not going to be a moment of abundance for everyone. It's not going to be a whatever the other thing is, people ascending to who knows where. And this is going to be affecting certain people within a certain limited range, and also according to their natal chart. And now I have to just briefly leave you again and let the dog back in. Okay, I'm getting my exercise today, just sitting here doing a video. Right, and so the reason I'm saying this is because, for example, if we're only taking, and I will only just take this example of the two benefics, so the lesser benefic Venus and the greater benefic Jupiter, which means traditionally the smaller of the good planets and the greater of the larger of the good planets, not necessarily that they're bringing you more or less good stuff, but it's going to depend on what the quality of Venus is in your natal chart and the quality of Jupiter in your natal chart and how they respond already from the what is known as the natal promise, or the things that come through the natal chart, which say, well, this person has a lot of ease around money, or a lot of ease around relationship, for example, or around children or whatever, which is another Jupiter significator. And if that's not the case, and we have planets that are afflicted by aspects to difficult placements, or if they're in difficult houses and there's something that's also restricting them, or they're in a difficult position vis-a-vis the sign, that will show that they're not going to be able to fully provide the let's say the blessing of the planet. So will it be nice? Certainly, it will be better than having, let's say, Mars conjunct Saturn, for example. But it's definitely not going to be applying to everyone. And that's why people say, oh, astrologers promise all these great things and nothing happens. Well, it's because it's not relating directly to the unique natal chart. And this we really have to remember. If you're a practicing astrologer, or if you're learning astrology, at the very least, remember that there's just no way that these things can apply to everyone. And this is something that also gives astrology a very bad name, because it's this kind of over the top sort of talking about things that is really unhelpful. Yeah, sorry. And now I'm just going to be gone 1 minute. I'm not even going to stop the recording. Hope that's the last time I have to get up. Okay. So, I'm just going to check my notes to see that I've said everything I wanted to say about these really fabulous fixed star placements. I think I did say everything. One thing that we can also say for the sky viewers, I think it's really great if you get an app, something that allows you to view the sky, if you're, especially if you're in an urban environment and the sky is not really viewable, or there's too much light pollution. And I like to use a Pocket Universe. I've been using that for, I don't know, 15 years or whenever it came out. It's really, really well done. And there's lots like it. There are many probably even better than that. I've just got used to using that one. So that's just a suggestion. And you'll be able to see there's a horizon line, and then there's the planets that you can see above and the planets that are below the horizon. So it's at any time you can see these kinds of things. And when could I, in terms of where you're located, when can I see these planets actually emerging from the horizon? So here we have Venus and Jupiter in the east sky. And so if you get out early in the morning, I posted about a week ago, whenever I first arrived in Toronto, I posted about seeing Venus and Jupiter. I did my best iPhone photo of that. And you can see them together. Now they're getting closer and closer all the way through till next week. And you can see them in the sky together, but you have to get out there before the sun rises. As you can see here, we have our horizon, and the sun is rising up on the horizon. And in most places, it's going to be a little bit different. In some places, for example, a little bit south of the UK, then the horizon will actually be on Jupiter and Venus. So you will literally see them for a blink of an eye, and then the sun rises. And here we've got where Greenwich Mean Time is, where universal time is. It's a Leo rising. So I don't put the ascendant or midheaven in unless I want to talk about that, but it's not part of what we're looking at here. But otherwise, take my word for it. It's a Leo rising for universal time with the sun in Leo. Yeah, and then that begs the question again about the lion thing. So again, I don't want to go down that road, but there's just so many things that make very little sense in our context today. So I think I've said everything about the fixed stars. I want to come back now to oh, and by the way, thanks to the Astrology King, astrologyking.com, Jamie, who is an absolutely brilliant astrologer. He has a great website, astrologyking.com. And I had a reading from him many years ago, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. He's a good astrologer that is well worth paying attention to. And he does all this fixed star stuff. So I take whenever I want to know more, or I need to confirm placement, or I need to understand more about the orb of activity, for example, I go to him. So you can definitely check that out as well. Let's come back now then to Jupiter and Venus, which is supposed to be the nuts and bolts of this video, which is now getting extremely long. I didn't intend to go on such a long rant, but there we are. So with Jupiter and Venus, we're in a really lovely energy, especially because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and especially because we also have this beautiful mutual generosity with the moon, which is feeding into it at the same time. So in the whole buildup of time, basically from, let's say, the beginning of the 11th of August, we have a combined effect also of Mercury, which is now although it's still moving very, very slowly, it's stationed direct on the 11th of August. So it's another thing that's helping us feel like things are slowly moving forward. And as well, we've got the separating opposition, which was quite tense, especially around the 9th, 8th, 9th um, of the month, even holding still in terms of an orb of degree, but weakening at the very least. It's a separating opposition and a separating trine to both Pluto and Uranus. So if you want to know more about that, look at the Aquarius full moon video that I did where I talked about that opposition and its delineation. Today we're going to look at these planets. And by the way, which also, because of Venus's rulership over Mars, it's also implied that something is improving because Venus is in a relatively happy position. If you're looking up, I didn't finish my, because I'm absolutely hyperactive today, trying to fit this video in. Venus is always going to be the brightest in the sky. So if you happen to be lucky enough to look up and see that Venus and Jupiter are together and you can see them on the horizon and you've got a really nice, clear, sort of dark sky to see them in as they just approach the rise in the horizon, it will always be Venus that's brighter than Jupiter. They're both bright, but Venus is brighter. Okay. And then the fixed stars, they're very far away. So even though they're extremely bright, if you've got light pollution or cloudy-ish sky, or even a hazy sky, you won't see them. So again, this is why there's a different way of working with them than to work with the planets that we can actually see in the sky. All right. And Mars is invisible at this stage as well. So Mars is invisible. That also means that things are tricky in terms of behind the scenes. Things are not really in our awareness. I forgot to mention that in the last video. So hopefully, hopefully you're going to get that message now. But there we have this dynamic of things shifting, and that's the message I wanted to convey. So this notion of security, how do I find security? How do I find my inner compass is very, very supported at this time in a way that even a few days before things felt super edgy. And in some of the comments that I got in the videos, aside from the unfriendly ones, some of the comments that I got were really to that effect, that people are feeling agitation and edginess and not feeling comfortable. And this is, it's not an easy time. So we want to draw on this energy of harmony that comes through the Venus and self-care, which is very much part of the Jupiter alone, but even especially so with Venus coming into Cancer, caring for oneself in a way that is nourishing enough that you can go back out into the world. So if the news is upsetting to you, which any rational person would find upsetting, it's time to stop it. It's time to not watch anymore. It's time to switch off social media and go towards nature. Water is the greatest purifier. Sorry, Virgo, but water is the greatest purifier where it is cleansing our aura. It's cleansing our energy body. So if you feel really stressed, at the very least have a foot bath or wash your hands. If you're not home and you can't do much about it, splash cold water on your face. This is very good for balancing the energy of the vagus nerve. Have a shower if you can, if that's available to you. Swim, especially swimming in a natural body of water, if that's possible. So water, drink water, hydrate, um, and find a way for yourself to reconnect and refresh your energy field. And it's really important that when you try to elevate your personal vibration, that you do that from the inside out, that you work with your voice, work with breathing, work with harmonizing through sound, through your own voice, ideally, and not necessarily rely on external things music can be wonderful. Listening to classical music or chanting or just some kind of harmonic music, ideally not electronic music, but with real instruments tuned in the old way, um, so that there's a harmonizing effect on the body. But the number one way to feel better and to nourish yourself is through your own rest or voice or breath, and you're doing that for yourself. So the less you rely on the world outside or people outside or things from outside, including even drugs and alcohol and whatever numbs or makes you feel better, the more you will feel safe and secure. And because our energetic field, our biorhythm requires a multi-dimensional sense of I'm okay. And even if you're overextending your senses by watching too much online or like now being in Toronto, it's a city of, I don't know, 4 something million people. The noise is unbelievable. Like I've got so used to this very quiet lifestyle by the seaside and not having this constant noise. And it's not just humming noise, it's like major booms. My poor dog goes out and every now and then there's this astonishing sound. And so then she wants to run back home. So our walks sometimes are getting shortened because of just the stress of the noise. Um, think about where you live. What's the context that you live in? Can you try to go somewhere, even briefly, to step away from noise, whether that's in an urban setting where you're stepping into a place which allows you to quieten down, not in a cafe, not in a bistro, not in a restaurant where the noise is even worse because of the din of the rebounding sound of the walls. That's happens a lot here, especially in North America. It's so hard to find a quiet place to eat. Um, and just, where you can feel your own body coming to a place of relaxation. Mantra chanting or humming is very, very good because what you're doing is always inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, and this is extremely nourishing. And this is what I'm trying to get at in terms of the deeper meaning of this. So for me to say to you, you're going to get rich, you're going to have a promotion or whatever, this may happen to a fragment of the population. There may be some people who really benefit from this in a very specific material, three-dimensional way. But if I'm not seeing your chart, I can't say that with confidence. And so I don't want to overpromise. I want to help you find tools that will use this energy either way. So whether or not things are going easily for you or they're really not going well, then it takes you to a better place to work with yourself. Okay. So Jupiter is in Indian astrology, is known as the Guru or Brihaspati, which means the biggest one, the giant one. Guru means teacher, obviously. For many of you, you know that already. And Gu is the darkness. And Ru is the removal of darkness. And so this is something that is not directed specifically at an individual. This notion of guru in our, especially Western mind, is that it's a person, and that also is a person, can be attributed to a teacher, a physical embodied teacher. But your greatest teacher is the guru inside. It's impersonal. It's your instinct. It's your ability to understand yourself, understand your experience in this moment and what that requires of you. Um, and so then the more that you can tap in intuitively, and the moon, of course, is the ruler of Cancer, and that represents this intuition. And Sirius also carries that. It carries a deep intuition, a very penetrating insight, very strong intuition that's adding to this energy, as well as Shiat on the moon. Same thing. Penetrating insight is one of the ways of describing Shiat. I can't remember if I did or didn't, if I was maybe getting up and down for the dog. I can't remember. Sorry if I didn't. Um, and so this notion of insight and intuition is your superpower. It's not coming from a date in the calendar. It's not coming from an event of any particular time. It's how you take care of yourself. And this is coming to your awareness if you want it. So here we have a very interesting kind of a mystic rectangle that's forming more powerfully now because Mercury is now coming into a stronger sextile as Mars moves ahead and Mercury is stationing. and that's building a stronger sextile. And then that is still, it's a relatively strong-ish trine to the Neptune and Saturn, which are moving away now from the trine because they're retrograding. And then again, we still have this trine between Mars and Pluto for now. So, and of course the sextile that's growing up there between the two of them. So there's within this kite formation, which I talked about earlier, which is also, again, is part of that notion of the security aspect that we're looking for here. You look at that Aquarius full moon to find out more. But aside from that kite formation, which is rare and very unusual because we're looking at it from the perspective of these outer moving planets, the outer slower moving planets, and a very strong trigger from the two malefics, the lesser malefic, the greater malefic in the chart, as well as Neptune, which operates sometimes in both ways as a benefic and malefic. We're in really unique times, and then this particular moment in time with this mystic rectangle is saying that we want to work with Mercury and Mars as a way of understanding there is something that we need to take action on in the way we think about things, the way we interpret things, the way we listen to things, the way we hold opinions. Is that helpful? Is it not helpful? What do we want to communicate? That's the Mercury in Leo now having been regenerated from its connection to the sun and the interior conjunction that it had at the beginning of the retrograde cycle or the shadow cycle. That is where you have this connection of the knowing now from the 3 weeks of the retrograde. I now know what I think. I now know what I need to say. I now know what I need to do. And here we have it in opposition to the Pluto Altair conjunction. So there's something very important about what needs transformation. And again, go back to the full moon video. You'll hear more about these different things. But today it still applies. It's just that now we're getting the extra boost, let's say, a blessing, a potential for feeling more optimistic. And at the very least, I would invite you to up your sense of spirituality that is not coming from an external savior. As I said, the guru or the person who is there for you to generate wisdom and to understand what's true and what's not true. If we put that outward onto a savior type of figure or a figure who's going to tell us what to do, we make ourselves even more fragile, and fundamentally, at least unconsciously, we know that we're more fragile. We're more at risk of manipulation and of being controlled and losing agency. So this is why modern, meaning the last century or so or more, modern spiritual communities don't work because people are materialistically looking outward to the guru to be told what to do, how to live their life, who to marry, and all of these different things cause friction in the human mind. It's not correct that somebody be told how to live their life. Our goal here through Guru, through Jupiter, in this lifetime is to learn what is your way through this lifetime. What is it that you need to learn? What is it that you need to understand? And you can only do that by paying attention from the inside out and not waiting to be told. And this is why when it's very difficult, I resisted for many years doing these astrology readings on YouTube because I genuinely don't like it, because it's not helpful to the very, very many people who think that things are happening to them. And with astrology, the danger is, especially with these kind of clickbaity things that I read earlier, people assume this is the moment, this is it, this is when everything changes. Remember, everything's going to change on the 8th of August. Write your comments down below about all the things that changed. All of these things that we can be very vulnerable to hearing, and it creates a sense of being disabled or having our agency taken away from us. And we need to build that agency from the energetic body outward, and from the inner knowing of self outward to the consciousness, or even at the level of mind and ego. So this is a really, really important time, I think, and because we're in such precarious times as we are, we can't pretend we're not. Because there's such a predominance of ignorance in the world, that is especially amongst people who are trying to control and trying to amass or hoard wealth, for example, or hoard power. we have to be even more self-aware. We have to be even more cautious about what we give away in terms of our energy, our attention, our belief system. And if what you're doing is not building yourself up from the inside and bringing peace to your mind and bringing peace to a place of deeper understanding, then it's not good for you. It's not working for you. It might work temporarily, but one day or another, you're going to wake up and think, why am I so angry? Why do I feel disappointed in everybody? And that's because you betrayed yourself and you thought that something outside of you is going to be your savior. So this, I strongly invite you at this time to, rather than turn to this as a material reference, um, that you really turn your gaze inward and that you see the Venus is also a teacher in the Indian tradition. So Jupiter is the wise one, the wisdom, the optimism. In the English, sort of Middle English, it's known as Jove. We had this expression, it's very old-fashioned now, but by Jove. And to be jovial is to be jolly, it's to be happy, it's to be full of ease and optimism. And that is Jupiter. And Venus has her own kind of positivity as well, but it's based on fulfillment of desire. And Venus was the teacher of the asuras, or the ones who were the difficult energies of the mind, basically. And Jupiter was the teacher of the gods. And that's not an easy gig either, because the gods are pretty unruly. But at the same time, it was a bit easier in the sense of the gods already having a higher, more elevated way of looking at life. And that's what Jupiter invites us to do. Jupiter invites us to elevate our perspective on what life is all about. And in Cancer, it's full of abundance, it's full of a benevolence, it's full of a generosity of spirit, a generosity of emotion. It can also be an excess of emotion. Again, too much of a good thing, Venus and Jupiter together. And Venus herself, in terms of that teaching, is about learning what is the right kind of desire, where desires are helpful or unhelpful, where desire is leading us to seek pleasure and forget the deeper meaning of life, for example. So here with Jupiter, they are teaming up and offering this opportunity to really explore all of those different things. The moon at the very, very end of the zodiac on Shiat, and in such a harmonious relationship with Venus and Jupiter. It's just beautiful benevolence. It's really, really lovely. And I very seldom talk this way. If you've watched me before, God help you if you haven't watched me before, because this is not my normal video style. I'm not usually this chaotic, but thanks for being here nonetheless. So yeah, so this is a really rare moment in time, but I think that the beauty of this moment is to go deeper inside. It's to really look for, where can I, despite all outer circumstances, find peace and harmony? Where can I find the thing that is going to bring me to a place of lasting benefit? Now, we can also say that Jupiter, being the ruler of the North Node, is also approaching a trine with the North Node. You can see as the line thins out, it's not so strong. When the line is thicker, it's very, very strong. So we see, for example, between Saturn, there's almost a perfect sextile here between Saturn and Uranus. And that line is the thickest. You see that's how that's measured. So 1 degree, 12 minutes of Gemini, 1 degree, 11 minutes of Aries. Now we have a trine that's building. It's about 4.5 degrees. So that's still very much in orb, but it gets closer and closer as Venus and Jupiter start to move in that direction. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't use other aspects besides conjunctions for the fixed stars. You can maybe change my mind in the comments, but I find it not really helpful. It's hard to delineate as far as I know. But nonetheless, Jupiter is ruling that North Node. And I just want to point out, because a day or two, based on the previous video about the Aquarius full moon, for those of you who are learning astrology, somebody mentioned that they thought, was it Lilith, was in the middle of Scorpio and not at the end of Libra. And the reason for that is that there is a true Lilith, which is moving constantly, and there's a mean Lilith, not an angry one, but an average Lilith. And the average Lilith is in the middle of Scorpio, and the true Lilith is at the end of Libra, and in the same way, the nodes have a true node, which is what I use, and a mean node. And you'll see here in my software, when things are retrograde, the planets are indicated with a red degree. And when they're direct, they're indicated with black degrees. Okay, so that's just the way that I've set up the software. It's the way that is kind of the basic setup for Astro Gold, which is what I'm using. And there's more information about Astro Gold in the comments if you're interested. And so just to point out that at this time, even the nodes are direct. They're stationary. They kind of move slowly in both directions. That's why the nodes take a year and a half to go through a sign. But they're not always retrograde in the true node reference. Because they're mathematical points, we can't point to them in the sky and say, oh, that's where it is. They're always a calculation, and that calculation is based on the ecliptic and where the sun and the moon are. And so we're looking at the same thing for Lilith, the same thing for any other mathematical point in the zodiac. But I found that a really interesting component as well, that the fact that if you're using the true node, that it's also stationary direct. And I find that's another message that says, as that trine is building, we're going in a new direction. Let's not take off to some random place where things are going to be better all of a sudden. Let's stay here and now and feel better and change the way we're relating to what's going on and allow ourselves to really embody this human experience through our divinity, through our spirit. And we can only do that if we're here and now and not waiting for some other uh, being to come and rescue us. And or whatever notion or idea based on a calendar date, based on a particular configuration. They're not coming to rescue you. We still have to do the work. The opportunity is great here, but so it's a great opportunity to start to move towards this deeper understanding of yourself and to use your inner guru. The inner guru, the inner teacher is the only one to rely on. You have a built-in GPS. It's built in. It's the capacity to know that knowledge, that gnosis, or the vidya, that is the knowledge of what is true. And that's what you could also describe as your instinct. And so many of us now in modern times are trained away from using our instinct. And this is not helpful. So let's use that instinct. Right. Enough of that. Let's go sign by sign. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to, and I will move on. And I will really invite you to reconsider, especially if there are clickbait titles in YouTube. Consider what is behind that and try to understand what the person is trying to convey to you. Okay, we're going to break up this lovely conjunction and go back to Aries on the ascendant. And so for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, you have Venus and Jupiter meeting up in your fourth house, which is, and by the way, Sirius is always in your fourth house, and so especially whole sign. And so you will have an opportunity if you want to heal, for example, relations with your family, relations with yourself, emotionally, psychologically, relations that have to do with your connection to your lineage or your family of origin or the family that you're creating, what makes you feel secure in a very literal sense. This is what is happening for Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Because of this Saturn-Neptune, you've understood something quite profound recently, and that's something that you're going to be turning over the next few months until they come back in February into your first house. But you also have this North Node in the 12th house, ruled by this Jupiter, and also the moon in the 12th house, which is indeed ruling Jupiter and ruling Venus at this time, and ruling your fourth house always. And so there's something here that you're intuiting. So you can also really dive into your inner experience of life, your inner intuition, your knowledge, your connection to what is maybe the deeper reality behind your emotions and what you really need, either in relationship or what you need to feel materially or psychologically secure in your life, especially because Mars, your ruler, is in the seventh house. So there may be something about relationship that you're able to operate from a different place now. Venus is ruling that Mars from the fourth house, so you're bringing in this emotional intelligence. So Jupiter, Venus in Cancer has very strong emotional intelligence. If you didn't listen to the introduction, it's a very long introduction. I got a little carried away there, but it's definitely worth listening to because this will also be elaborated in that as well. So a really lovely time. Again, as I mentioned in the introduction, the way that you engage in this will depend on the quality of your natal Jupiter and your natal Venus. It's not like all of a sudden it's just going to rain down rainbows and sunshine on you, but that the opportunities are very positive right now. Um, and so the other aspect of this is could be quite literally about property or buying property, selling property, fixing up property, because the fourth house is about land and property, and Venus rules your second house of money. And there may be something that you're able to negotiate in terms of a contract or a purchase agreement or a sale agreement that is working in your favor. And the fourth house is always something to do with what is sort of hidden in you. And so this is a wonderful opportunity also if you've been feeling quite a lot of pressure, a lot of stress at this time, especially Saturn, Neptune going into your first house. There may have been more than one opportunity to feel a bit of stress. This is a great opportunity for you to, kind of cocoon yourself, shelter yourself, and go within. It's not your standard practice. As an Aries, you tend to be very much outwardly driven and impulsive and reaching out into the world, but it would bring a lot of benefit, even more than usual, to do this right now, because it's a time of really beautiful nourishment, and that can include your spiritual nourishment as well, as the moon is there ruling the fourth house and from your 12th. And so this could be a great opportunity to go on a retreat or plan a retreat at this time. So all really, really lovely for you. And also your exaltation ruler, the sun, is in your fifth house, which is a really fabulous place already to have that energy and boosting you, boosting your creativity. And now Mercury is also doing the same, now going direct in your fifth house. So there's going to be a lot of momentum for really understanding things, insightful awareness of things that can be very, very nourishing. And you've got Uranus sextiling from the third house of your mind. So lots of new insights, almost guaranteed if you just sit quietly with it. And it will help you to be quiet and receive rather than try to reach out and figure things out from from the level of the mind. At this particular time, then after you can create what you have based on what you received. Okay, good luck with that, Aries. Taurus, your ruler, Venus, is there cozying up to Jupiter, and in your third house of your siblings, your extended family, your communication and your day-to-day experience of life, your neighborhood, for example. So friends very much involved in this as your exaltation ruler. The moon is up there in the house of friends, along with the North Node, and just about to approach Shiat just hours after this conjunction. And so there's something that you might learn from a friend. There's something that might be happening in your experience because of this awareness and because of this insight or this connection. It might be a person that you're meeting for the first time. And that can also be the Venus and Jupiter, especially as she's your ruler. You might be meeting somebody extremely helpful, extremely caring. It might be a genuine new friend, or it could be even a life partner that you're meeting in such a way that um, you're benefiting from them. And that might even be for your career benefit, or some kind of artistic benefit. Third house is your artistic skills, or whatever you're doing, whether it be with your voice or with your um, voice or with your pen or with your brush or whatever the thing is. There's a strong boost to creativity here that can be really welcome for you right now, that you can really experiment with. Um, yeah, and it's a very lovely time if you have to express something in words, if you need to have a conversation, especially a healing type of conversation with someone. It's a really good time to do that. You're going to find the context and the words and the ability to say what needs to be said. in such a way that it builds trust and harmony. It builds some kind of connection in the relationship. Now, this is in the context of a Mars in Libra opposing Saturn and Neptune. So one of the things I would say about that, watch the Aquarius video, Aquarius full moon video. But one of the things I would say about that is watch out for patterns of behavior, especially around fear or not seeing things clearly, or even around dependency issues, where you might not be you might either just be realizing or you might not be aware of how those patterns affect other people. And then Mars in the sixth can cause some issues that create rifts with other people, caregivers, or people who are colleagues, people who are looking out for you in some way or another. And so this is, again, this is something to keep in mind that within the context of this, you may be actually repairing something that already happened that felt like a rift. And that's something that applies especially for several days before and after the 12th of August perfected conjunction. But particularly as it's your ruler, this is really very precious for you, Taurus, a really lovely opportunity. And Taurus, your ruler, so Venus rules you and your sixth house of work, which is where that pesky Mars is. But it also means that there's something that will resolve an obstacle, will resolve a miscommunication problem, will resolve a something that you need to take action on, and this action will be supported because their Venus is with Jupiter. So you'll get support for doing whatever action is required to do the work or get over the thing that's challenging and that is creating the chaos or obstacle or frustration at the moment. Right. So I think that's it, Taurus. Good luck with this. It's a beautiful time, especially as your ruler is involved. So enjoy that. Gemini, this is happening in your second house, which first and foremost represents anything that supports you. So that could be financial, it could be your income, for example, or the money that's in your bank account, or the money that's in your gold bars, or your Bitcoin account, or whatever it is. It's things that you hold as a value, a store of value, but also your value, your sense of self-worth. And this can give you a beautiful boost to your value. Also, it's family. And of course, the family supports us, ideally, not always, but ideally. And so here with Venus and Jupiter in your house of family, it can be a really, really good time to spend time with the family or to connect in some way with the family. The moon is representing often the mother in the 10th house with the North Node and Shiat around this time. And the moon, of course, is ruling your second house, and the 10th house represents parents and bosses and authority figures of all kinds, as well as society in general. In terms of the gaze of society, how do they see you? How do you show up? How your ambitions show up? So maybe you're realizing something about your financial ambitions here that you are going to get a boost on, or at the very least, maybe a personal insight that helps to motivate you around that topic. Mars is in your fifth house of taking risks, investing, gambling, um, fun, just plain old fun, love, and so on. So that can be good or bad depending on your natal chart. Your ruler has just stationed direct on the day before this conjunction. And that's always good because it means that there's a feeling of, okay, I'm now back on track. Things are moving along, but it's still really stable at that 4-degree placement. So it hasn't really shifted much in the sky. It's just that it's stationed direct. So really it'll be a few days before you start to feel that momentum, but you can use the insights, the awareness, the perhaps blessing or the benefit that you're getting around this second house issue to support you on this new way. And of course, Saturn and Neptune are in your 11th house of money that you earn from what you do or the bigger gains that can just come to you. And with Saturn there, I'm not so sure about Neptune. It's not so clear literally for you there, but with Saturn, Neptune together anyway, this can be that there's something you realize you could have had or you wish you had had or you want to have, but it's not quite happening. Meaning that you might have to go back and figure things out. So that Mercury retrograde will have helped you figure out what was the thing. And there can be new actions coming from that, but probably in the days ahead, not necessarily on, Tuesday or even Monday for that matter, although for a handful of you, of course, that's also going to apply. So a really, really lovely opportunity for you to enrich your sense of self and your self-esteem, put yourself out there if there is something that you need to talk to a boss about, for example, or your spouse, or some kind of engagement around marriage, because of course Jupiter rules your house of the other, rules your business partners, your marital partners, your dearest friends, um, clients for that matter. So there's something here that's quite beneficial. So a really, really good time to set yourself in a position to connect with people um, and and get their favor, get their blessing. So that Saturn again being a bit pesky, Neptune being a big question mark in terms of how that all fits together with you, but you will be able to manage it better in February when it comes back through. Especially as it's been trining Mercury, you seem to have been able to get something understood or communicate something that was necessary with that the sextile rather to Mars, from your ruler, and the trine to Saturn, Neptune. Good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next video. Cancer, you might have guessed that this is all about you, and this is your moment in time where this is something that happens periodically in your sign. The last time this happened was in 2013, I think it was, and in 2001. And this time we're getting this conjunction in Cancer with a conjunction to Sirius, which is really quite lovely. And the added benefit that the moon, the ruler of Cancer, is in the ninth house, which is incredibly optimistic. It's very high-minded. It's very spiritual. It's something that creates a potential for deep awareness, deep understanding, or a deep sense of purpose and mission. Again, that will depend on your natal chart, but it's definitely something to keep in mind, especially as anyway, the North Node has been moving through that part of your chart in a trinal aspect to Cancer. So that's already been a big and a very active place in your chart in terms of what next, what to do next. Particularly so as Saturn, Neptune are in the 10th house, asking the question, how do I stabilize something and create something lasting for the future in how I show up in the world? So this is a blessing. It can be a physical blessing as well. The first house is the body, how you appear. It can be something that is about your health overall, can be a turning point in your health. I, for example, had the first full night of sleep that I've had in almost 2.5 months last night. So that was that. The blessings are already starting. And so this is a great opportunity to really think in terms of your inner intuition and how you can use that to grow in the world. You're reaching out into the world. So Venus rules your home, the family, the lineage, the potentially property, physical property as well. That's where Mars is currently. So there's a lot of focus there, a lot of energy on that. This can be something that needs to be taken care of in terms of quite literal family stuff or real estate stuff or um, rental or whatever property things that need to be dealt with, things that need your attention. Mercury is in the second house, also a family where the sun is as well, and that's where the retrograde has just ended on the 11th. Mercury is stationing direct, and so there will have been something about money, about your resources, what's available to you, what's happening with family and how you're getting support or not, or how you're helping and doing the supporting, for example. That's very strong right now, but Mercury is slowly moving direct. So things just start to become clearer from this point on. You do have Venus in the first house for another couple of weeks, so this is going to be lovely. And Jupiter is in the first house really for another year. So Venus and Jupiter will meet up again one last time at the very last degree. Can't remember, is it the 29th or the 25th degree? So in the last degrees, I'll say, of Cancer. And so you're going to get this twice, which is quite nice. It doesn't always happen this way, but in is it late June of 2026, this is going to happen again. So very, very nice dynamic for Cancer, sun, moon, and rising. And especially because you're ruled by the moon, don't forget the moon. So absolutely consider that if Cancer is your moon, this is extremely important, as well as the sun and ascendant. All right, thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next video. So, Leo, this is happening in your 12th house where Venus and Jupiter are meeting up with Sirius in the 12th. So, this can be deeply insightful. You have Mars in the third house, which can be also real strong intellectual activity, communication activity, really reaching out into something. And that's ruled by this Venus in the 12th. So, you might be getting insight through dreams. You might be getting insight through some kind of just awareness, mystical awareness. You've got the moon ruling the 12th house from the 8th house on Shiat, which is very within hours just after this conjunction takes place. You'll hear that in the introduction. So there's something really profound that you can listen for, learn from. This is maybe the best way to use that Mercury stationing direct, because there can be a tendency with Mercury in Leo, and again, it depends on your natal chart, but to assert your own opinion and assume that that's the correct one, or assume that you are right, even if there's something that needs to be re-examined. So this is still in that phase of Mercury not really moving very fast, and the slowness and the just this recent turnaround of Mercury can be a very good opportunity to listen to yourself, listen to other people, listen also to the way you communicate, especially with Mars in the third, because that can bring about some challenges that may be principled. They may be because of something that you're struggling with. What do I believe? What is necessary for me to do now? Who am I in this moment in time? Especially as the sun is in the first house, you might be emboldened to really start to show up. And that's a beautiful thing. But I really think this particular moment in time is a good time to really listen, dig deep, and try and figure out what is calling me now, what's coming from the inside, what's this urge that's coming. Because you still have Jupiter here for a year, goes right through till the end of June of 2026. So magical spiritual growth available to you if you are going to pull back and listen. Now, the challenge here, especially because the moon is in the eighth, the North Node is in the eighth, the house of intimacy, the house of secrets, and ruling the house of the 12th house of bad pleasures and things that go on behind closed doors and things that are not necessarily known to other people. It's a really good time to listen to your moral compass. Be aware if there is an engagement, a relationship, some kind of it can be financial as well, shenanigans going on, or some relationship that is blossoming, but not necessarily a good one because there's some prior engagement or there's something going on that is not could not be made public. Be careful of this because you can become emboldened with this kind of energy, and eventually that can also sour on you, that things might be revealed, particularly when Venus goes into your first house, and or when she finally merges into your third house, which she rules, and then somebody blabs what's going on, especially because you have Mars in the third house, where ruled by this Venus about communication in opposition to Saturn, going back into your eighth house to sort out what's going on behind the scenes. So whether this is about something to do with money, um, things that are not entirely honest or above board, or even in your awareness, potentially around a contract or around communication in some way, do take good care to be doing the thing that you really need to be doing long term. This is a cycle that lasts for quite some time. It's almost an annual cycle, but it's rare in Cancer. So we do get it twice because of the way they line up in this moment in time. But after that, it's 12 years of a cycle. So this is setting you up for something that can be quite long lasting and can have a long impact. Um, I mean, and again, if it's something that is entirely in the direction that you want to be going, and things are going to be changing clearly in your house of relationship because of that Pluto, carry on and then see when is the right time to start to share this experience with other people, which might be coming up sooner than you might think when Venus comes into your first house, or especially when she gets to the third house. All right. Either way, have fun, Leo, and I'll see you in the next video. Virgo, this is happening in your 11th house of friends and the hopes for your future and the vision that you have for your life in the future. the way you connect also around earned income, or the money that you earn from what you do, especially if you're entrepreneurial rather than employed. Um, Money that can come to you in ways that are surprising, that are not necessarily expected. And again, if it's about something like a lottery win or something along those lines, something that comes to you through a benefactor or through some great support, a boost to your audience, for example, or a boost to your income, or to, indirectly to expanding your work, that's all contingent on what is actually in your natal chart in terms of the quality of Venus, the quality of Jupiter. Is that going to work for you? You have Mercury, your ruler, in the 12th house. So the gains may not be immediate, or they may not be as great as otherwise, simply because Mercury is in the 12th house from you. It's your ruler. It's only just now stationing direct. It's not to say that things are not possible. It's just to say that there may be something that is a process that is underway, rather than something that you can kind of anticipate happening boom in your lap. And so, of course, the great potential is that this comes through a colleague who is important, like a business partner or a life partner or a client even, somebody who works with you on a relatively equal footing, or somebody who's very important in your life as a relationship, not only a marital partner, but especially those, or business partner, partnerships of all kinds, where the moon is ruling that 11th house, and then Jupiter and even Venus by exaltation are ruling your 7th house. So connecting with a new relationship because of friends, for example, or because of a cause that you're working towards, because of a belief or an ideological a faith, or political something or other. This can be very, very timely, something very, very beautiful happening there. Your ruler is slowly going to pick up steam, and then by the end of the month move into your first house. So whatever you're conjuring here can also be great in terms of preparing a project, preparing to write a book. Venus is ruling the house of publishing, the 9th house, and this could be a really good time to prepare something, a project, or a piece of work that you're going to produce behind the scenes and then present later on when when Mercury comes into your first house. But it's favorable to you in the sense that it's a sextile, so that does give you quite a lot of support, and especially through other people where it's trining. And also Jupiter rules your 4th house, which is about your home, your residence, quite literally, but also your sense of home and your sense of belonging to the people around you, your family of origin, for example, or um, your lineage in general. So there can be something that's happening there too that can be quite insightful, or something that's changing, going in a new direction in the future. It's not particularly negative. It's more likely to be something that is causing a change, but with a higher perspective. But Mars is in the family sector. It's in the 2nd house of what supports you, and the family is included in that. So there's something that needs to be worked through. Venus is ruling that Mars from a relatively easy-ish place, because Venus is relatively comfortable in Cancer. She doesn't have any particular dignity there, but she's comfortable, and then gets the boost by Jupiter as well. And so there is this quality of support, although there's something that needs to be worked through. So it could be that there's tasks to be done for the family, or that for the moment the family isn't able to be there for you when otherwise you would have liked them to be. But it's not a rift or anything. It's not like a permanent split. It's just that there's something right now that is more focused on what you can do, or what you might need to contribute. So either way, it's quite a good time for you. It's definitely a great time to have a vision for your future, connect with friends, socialize, have people around at home, because again, Jupiter rules your home. Connect with people who are of like mind. Venus rules your 9th house of, faith and what you believe in. And this is the forum where all of that happens. Create something that will be seen by other people as well. This is also the stage. So again, it would depend on your natal chart, but definitely a relatively good time to be connecting with people who will be there for you. And Jupiter alone in the, I've said this in other videos, Jupiter alone in the 11th house brings you support from people in high places or people who are well positioned to give you support. So including, you know, sort of fans or followers or benefactors, this kind of thing. So that might be part of this story, especially as Venus rules your second of money, income, possessions, and so on, but your values as well. All right, good luck with that, Virgo. I'll see you in the next video. Libra, so just for a moment, we can forget about that Mars in your first house, and we're going to look at your 10th house of career, where we see that your ruler, Venus, is with Jupiter and also very, very tight with Sirius. So there's some potential for an accolade or a really beneficial contact with a superior at work, if you have that kind of relationship with people, your boss, or some person who is well placed uh, to see you shine in your work, because Venus is kind of like your ambassador. She represents you, so it's you shining in your work, and the potential is there to grow through whatever it is that you're doing now. So if you're starting a project with people, this is a good time to do that. Now Mercury is moving direct, and through the week as we go, Mars is separating from the opposition with Saturn and Neptune, so that makes that easier as well, less tense. And it's in a very nice sextile with Mercury for a couple of days around this time. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even into Thursday, all around this 12th of August period is a good time for you if you want to launch something. Pluto is in your fifth house of being seen. How are you seen? How are you reaching out into your sense of self and how you show up, let's say, in your creative self-expression? And Mercury is out on the stage in your 11th house, talking to people about it, talking to friends or connecting through friends. So really, really helpful. The moon is in your sixth house of work, potentially health, or illness or issues like that. That does not seem to be the case here. Again, it depends on your natal chart, but that's really a focus on what's going on in your everyday life. And the moon is ruling that 10th house. So there's something here about what is going on in the practical everyday way that is going to be supporting what you are showing up as in the world, out in the career path or in the social dynamic, or how it is that you do you when you go out the front door. And that can also be something to do with, just your personal ambitions for your career. So it may be that nothing is actually materializing at this moment, but you become really clear what it is that you want to do. And that's certainly supported by Uranus in your ninth. Having only just gone in there, you can get some deep insights about, wow, this is the thing. This is who I am. This is what I want out of my life. This is my purpose. So that will be still kind of toing and froing until April of next year, as Uranus goes back in November into your eighth house to finish up its task there in the eighth. But you often get the sharpest glimpse into what Uranus wants for you when it first goes in, the first ingress in the sign, and you're getting it on steroids from the ninth because you've got Mars in your first house, trining that Uranus in your ninth and trining Pluto in your fifth. So I'd say you have a really strong urge now to show up in a particular way. And I would say, please listen to the introduction if you're not usually doing that. I know it's long. I kind of went overboard on that one. That's also Jupiter, Venus. It's just too much of a good thing. Um, and to recognize that this is an opportunity for you to really live from what is true for you, that you're really looking at, how do I feel about this? How do I want to move forward? What does my everyday life need to look like? And how do I need to feel about that? That's the moon in Pisces in the sixth, showing you what the 10th house can do with Venus and Jupiter up there. So a really good time to be bold. Mars is in your first house, and to be having a sense of, I'm here for a purpose. I have this thing that I believe I can contribute to to life. It's not about a job. It's not about a thing that you're doing. It's about your way of doing yourself, okay? Your way of showing up in life. And this is, I think, being really strongly highlighted for Libra right now. All right, good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next video. Scorpio, this is happening in your ninth house, which is actually a great place for this to happen. because it's trinal to you. To have Venus and Jupiter in your ninth house is really rare, but then on top of that, with Sirius conjunct, it's bringing you deep inspiration. I think your ruler is in the 12th house, which can also be really contributing to a desire to pull yourself back a little bit and reflect on things. Venus is ruling your 12th from that ninth house placement. So there's a lot of churning inside for Scorpio, which is not new to Scorpio, but it's just especially strong right now. And especially also because you've got Pluto with Altair in your 4th house, trining Uranus, trining Mars in these more secret places of your chart, these moksha houses, which are more about recognizing what's going on psychologically or emotionally or in your spiritual self. So you're really ripe now for having a greater sense of what you're here for. What do I need to know? What do I want to know? There might be this deep quest, a search for knowledge, a thirst for knowledge. And that's actually a beautiful, harmonious thing. Now, just after this conjunction perfects, we have, and at the time that is perfecting, the moon is approaching Shiat, and so the moon in this particular chart has moved simply because I've been moving the clock face of the chart, but the moon is in Pisces at this time. And what that represents is, I know it says Aries, but it will be in Pisces at that time. It's a representation of something between your 5th house of self-expression and your 9th house, which it rules. And because Jupiter is in your 9th house, ruling the 5th house and ruling your 2nd house of money, this can have something to do with a project that you have with reference to a creative output, creative enterprise, something entrepreneurial, especially as we're tying in the 2nd house of money or earned income or money that is in your possession, not things that you have in your possession, including your own sense of self-worth. And so Venus with Jupiter up in the 9th actually boosts your sense of self, your sense of self-worth, and perhaps also something to do with your father or a teacher or some kind of figure like that, a counselor, a guide, person who's important in terms of helping you learn things. And Jupiter operating that 2nd house as well as the 5th house can also may have something to do with family and children in this sense as well. So you might be realizing something about the way that you are the guide or the teacher or the authority type of reference for your children and how that's affecting them. Jupiter represents pregnancy, early childhood parenting, and that kind of thing as well. And especially for you because it is the significator or the ruler rather of your 5th. 2nd house being the family, but also what supports you in general. So maybe you're having new insights in terms of developing faith, your ruler in the 12th, a need to develop more faith, more trust in life, more of a sense of a bigger vision for your life than maybe you've been relying on up until now. Saturn, Neptune have been in your 6th house of your everyday. So maybe there's part of this understanding of, I don't want to live like this anymore. This is not for me anymore. I don't want to do this thing anymore. And you've got this Mercury now stationary in your 10th house. So you've got the sun up there too, but Mercury has now stationed to move direct from this point on. And so part of that Mercury retrograde may have been also the build up to this understanding of this moment where you really feel like, okay, that I've thought about this, my role in society or my role in terms of my ambition, my career, my legacy, my reputation, all of those things. And now I understand this is the thing. This is what it is now. Mars, your ruler, also rules your 6th house of work, and it's ruling that Saturn, Neptune. So I think there could be something to really pay attention to. Think life is short, hopefully sweet, but life is short. And so this is the moment now to really jump in and change what needs to be changed, right? All right, so I'm going to just spin the wheel again so we get to Sagittarius, but I'm going to do it a slightly different way. There we go. I should have done that for Leo. Now we're going to go backwards for Sag. Yes, I think that's what we're doing. So we're going to go backwards for Sag. We're separating out Venus and we're putting, yikes, where are we going? No, did I want to go backwards? Now I'm getting a little confused. And there we go. So we have, see, this is the problem when you get so little sleep, and then you finally get one decent night of sleep, and then nothing works out anymore. Okay, we want Scorpio on the ascendant. Why is that not working? There we go. That's the strangest thing. I'm going to just switch back and we're going to start again. Sorry, people. Um, why is that not coming up? Where are we at? So Venus is separating. Yes, that's what we do. We want that. Okay, we do want this. So we're just going to pull Venus back because otherwise the moon goes too far into Aries, and I don't want that. Oh, I see what's going on. It's because I'm not paying attention. Sorry. Ay, ay, ay. Why, people? All right, here's where we find the astrology unhelpful. Let me do it this way. Once again, sorry about this delay. There we go. This is me just going to go forward, and we're going to have to take the moon on the chin. Okay, here we go. We just did Scorpio. We've got now Sagittarius on the ascendant. And so with Sagittarius on the ascendant, your ruler is conjoining not only Venus, but Sirius in your eighth house. Sirius is always in your eighth house. It's just that it happens also to be joining Venus and your ruler. And so that's absolutely wonderful for you in terms of what you can receive from other people. You can get great benefit from marriage, from receiving perhaps from a family inheritance or some kind of bonus or some kind of money that comes through things that you've done before, royalties and this kind of thing. Um, it's kind of income that you didn't earn. It's things coming to you, but it's not directly related to the work that you did, unless you work with clients, in which case it's coming from the client, the money that you're earning from clients. But it's a really nice place to have it, and also very rich in terms of your spiritual awareness or your unconscious awareness, connection with family secrets, overcoming things that felt like they may have been dark and heavy before. And now there's this feeling of, okay, we're turning a corner. We're able to connect to something that is profound and meaningful. If you're working through, let's say, psychological or other emotional disruption, difficulties, then this is also a real breakthrough opportunity. Jupiter is ruling the fourth house, which is also about the foundations of your mind, your sense of security, your sense of inner peace, as it were. And so this is also really, really good for that dynamic of understanding yourself. Now, remember, at the time that Venus conjoins Jupiter on the 12th, the moon is still in Pisces. So as it's building up to that conjunction, and for 5 hours afterwards, the moon is there in Pisces, and then eventually 5 hours after the direct conjunction, it meets up with Shiat. So listen to the introduction to hear about why that's interesting, as the moon from the fourth is supporting the eighth house for you and for your ruler in there, which are in a mutual generosity and supporting each other. So there's something about roots and family and foundations of life, and making yourself understand what is going on in your deeper sense of self. Mercury has also just stationed direct now in your ninth house. And so that's also giving you some clarity around your purpose, or around your sense of what is important to you right now, what you have faith in now, what you need to deal with now in terms of wisdom, understanding, the higher meaning of things. With Jupiter in the eighth, you can really go deep into mystical understanding. This can be a brilliant time to deepen your practice if you haven't started one already, of meditation or of spiritual practices. If you are thinking of starting one and you haven't yet, this would be a really lovely beginning for something like that, where you can really say, okay, now I see there's something about myself that I'm really ready to tap into, and I'm listening. Having said that, with the moon in the fourth and the North Node in the fourth, and then the rulership of the eighth, and where Jupiter and Venus are, this is just a brilliant opportunity also to listen deeply to your intuition and really pull in what is coming through the ethers, what's coming through the inner knowledge, the sense of inner awareness. Again, because when the ruler of the first is in the eighth, there's something very, very deep, very profound going on that you can really experience viscerally. And the ruler of your 12th is in the 11th house. So there may be something that also is contributing to a sense of your future that is coming through the sense of your inner experience through the 12th house, which is more the unconscious mind, or um, your deeper inner awareness. Again, all the 4th, 8th, and 12th are about those kinds of topics. So a deeply spiritual time, you can go and, try and get a tarot reading, get an astrology reading, or learn those things. Or if you are already working that way, it's going to be fantastically insightful and a real opportunity for you to develop maybe more of your business or more of your practice or more of your confidence in what you're doing. Right. Pretty good, all in all. Venus rules your 6th house as well. So there may be something that you're realizing about your everyday work, and you're thinking, yeah, I can go a little far out. I can do a thing that is maybe not mainstream. And maybe if it is mainstream, let's imagine that you're quite happy with your 3D experience, then Venus in the 8th ruling the 6th can also bring you some really interesting um, let's say, awareness or capacities or opportunities for managing other people's money, for example. So I would have to see your natal chart to confirm that, but it's one of the ways that this can be working for you. And of course, with Uranus in your house of relationships of all kinds, just setting out, and with Mars in the house of friendships, there's a lot of dynamism here around friends and connections with people. Pluto is also in the house of friends and connections that are day to day, or siblings and extended family. So there can be something here that's really dynamic and changing, but in a way that is reflected on what are your deeper values. So especially if you have an elder sibling, this will be extremely powerful. Or if it's just about your connections with friends and people you know around you, the sort of everyday people, you're changing, and you may decide you want to go towards something or away from something based on what you realize about your deeper sense of self, or the meaning that you ascribe to your life. All right, good luck with that, and I will see you in the next video. So Capricorn, this is happening in your house of relationship, the dynamic of partnership of all kinds, your spouse, for example, or your business partner, um, important people in your life, clients, if you work like that with people. So very significant and very helpful, because Venus rules your 10th house of career. And so, or social status for that matter. So it could be something to do with marital status, or it could be something to do with career and developing through partnership, or developing through an improved relationship with the important person sitting across the table from you. And that's really, really nice. So you can absolutely benefit from harmonious connections with people, even if it's just light and fluffy and social. You will definitely benefit from social connections, but you could actually quite literally benefit in the sense that you might be getting some great advice, or you might meet somebody who's so significant and that you don't realize it maybe immediately, but you realize later on that that person was really boosting your career, boosting your sense of possibilities. Business partnerships succeed around that. So Venus rules your 5th house of entrepreneurship, children also. So this can be a dynamic also, of course, around your children or what's going on in their lives. But also, and of course, she rules the 10th, where we find Mars, which has you very ambitious and really forward looking in work, and tempering a little bit the potential for crabbiness that might be with Mars in the 10th. But Venus she sees something of a connection or benefit in relationship. And so there's a better, more wholesome engagement there, dampening that Mars potential for pushing too much. Depending, again, that depends on your natal chart. And then, of course, Jupiter rules your 3rd house, which is communication and siblings and extended family, your neighborhood, the place of your sort of everyday life, how that pans out, which is where, anyway, there's been a lot of attention because of the North Node. And so you're really looking to connect with people. The 3rd house is how you connect. Do you meet for coffee? Do you go for a game of golf, or whatever the thing is? And then on top of that, there's a lot to talk about. So this could be also a really rich time to discuss things perhaps pertaining to your vision for the future, or pertaining to money, because we also have Mercury, Sun in your eighth house, for example, Pluto in your second house. And of course, Venus and Jupiter both represent money in some way, shape, or form in the seventh house. So you might have that conversation that needs to be had, and it will be beneficial. It will help work through whatever it is that's about needs to be worked through. And of course, Mercury is also now stationed direct in your eighth house. So whatever this thing was that you were re-establishing or contemplating or having to go through in the eighth house, including intimacy, for example, or about the shared responsibilities or shared resources or shared values for that matter, it seems to all be flowing forward and to be disengaging from the tension that was there in the days before this. So pretty good, Capricorn. And of course, your ruler, Saturn, eternally there in the fourth house with Neptune up until the 1st of September. So we've got it now for about less than 3 weeks. And this opportunity now to reflect on this third house topic that seems to be highlighted at this time. So Saturn is going to stabilize that. Neptune comes back in October to destabilize or try and help you resolve whatever is still not sorted out in that third house before in February they come back to this same place. And of course, follow Saturn, know what it's doing because it is your ascendant ruler if you are Capricorn ascendant, and if you're Sun or Moon, it's your Sun or Moon ruler. All right, good luck with that, Capricorn. I'll see you in the next video. Aquarius, this is happening in your sixth house of everyday work, health, and dynamics around illness and overcoming problems, overcoming obstacles to, dealing with people, the challenges of day-to-day life, the filling in tax forms and stuff like that. It's the things that need to be overcome, things that need your contribution, your service, your attention. So there's something here that is brightening up that area of life. There can be an element of support that feels like somebody else is supporting you, or especially it can be financial support. There's some maybe gain or some opportunity coming your way that you hadn't imagined, but is coming through the way that you're showing up every day, whether that's for your job or whether that's just you doing you every day. There may be some benefit to your health because, of course, Jupiter rules your second house in the sixth house, and it's pulling back in the second house where we look at your overall health and diet and the things that support you, your family, your daily lifestyle choices in the sixth house, but then perhaps all the things that you eat or the things that you consume in the second house. So you can really, you can expect some grace, some benefit, some help there. Venus rules your ninth house as well as your fourth house. So there's something here perhaps of a sense of your vision based on what you're doing every day that might affect your overall happiness, your overall well-being, your overall sense of purpose, because that Mars in the ninth can reflect that, especially as it's trining Pluto in your first house and trining Uranus in your fifth, which is about how I want to show up, how I want people to notice me and see me and to express myself. So it looks like a really lovely opportunity to really carve out what you want in your everyday life and to work in such a way that it brings you joy, that brings you benefit, that brings you a sense of a higher purpose. Jupiter also rules your 11th, which is your future, your more visionary. That's what makes Aquarius visionaries, because Sagittarius is on the 11th house. And so that Jupiterian quality you're bringing into your everyday. And so if your health is an issue, the solution to that is nourishing yourself from every level, not just through the food that you eat, but in the sense of taking good care and resting and everything I said in the introduction. So it's a really great opportunity for you to switch around your sense of who you are in your everyday. And now Mercury is direct in the seventh house in opposition to Pluto, weakening the opposition as it starts to move direct, and Pluto moves back retrograde. And there may be something here about your relational dialogue, what it is that you need to share with somebody important to you, including a business associate or partner or something like that. Seems to be helpful if you're talking about working with clients or colleagues. There's a lot of support in terms of that everyday ambiance. And of course, your ruler is still with Neptune, will be for the next year, basically very tightly so, and moving backwards into the second. So whatever it is that you've discussed or learned or thought about or realized you need to hone as a skill, for example, is still part of this dynamic as well. It's not until the 1st of September that your ruler moves back into your finances house, your house of self-worth and value and so on. And that will be where you kind of tweak and shape the months that follow, five months or so that follow until February, when Saturn and Neptune move back into your third house to stay for quite a long time. So this is a great opportunity to feel like, okay, this is my life. Life is short. This is what I want my everyday life to feel like. And you're getting somehow a real great blessing there. And on a very mundane level, sixth house is also small animals or domesticated animals. And so you might find that if you get a pet at this time, it would be also really lovely. Um, could be a real addition to your family. Venus, of course, ruling the house of home, and that could be a really sweet thing to think about at this time, getting a pet. Some people put pets in the fifth house because for some people they're like children. Um, Fifth and sixth, depending on how you look at it, but either way, you've got Uranus in the fifth, so it's a crazy pet. You get a crazy pet. All right, Aquarius, I'll see you in the next video. Pisces, your ruler, Jupiter, is in the fifth house, which is trinal to you, very supportive energy. And it's with Venus, which is your exaltation ruler, which is even more supportive for you. And at the time that this is happening, please look at the introduction to see this better. The moon is approaching Shiat, which is always in your first house for Pisces, will be for many, many years to come. And so Sirius is with Venus and Jupiter in your fifth. So this is a really lovely opportunity for you to experience love in a pure way, to experience self-nurturance or nurturance with another, through love, through creativity, through your expression of yourself, of just being yourself, being a natural you. Bringing your charm into experiences of connection with your children, for example, with loved ones of all kinds, but especially lovers. Adding romance, adding just a taste of joy and abundance to your sex life, to your romantic life, to your creative life. It's all there, really super expressed. Because when the moon is in your first house, it really is pulling in that fifth house dynamic, and vice versa for Pisces, sun, moon, and ascendant. And so here you have this great opportunity to say, okay, there's something about me that I want to show or feel in a new way, in a different way. This is a beautiful opportunity. This opportunity does come again in 2026, in June, the end of June, at the very end of Cancer. I think it's literally the last degree, but I've forgotten the exact degree. So it's either the 25th or the 29th, but I think it's the 29th. Anyway, very close to the end of Cancer, and so this is a kind of a blessing twice over, because it will happen twice in this journey, and so that's even doubly blessed for Pisces, and because of the exaltation rulership of Venus and the actual rulership of Jupiter for your sign, and the fact that you've got the North Node there basically until July next year, shows that the Piscean energy becomes very expansive and very blessed at this time. So really use that and walk your talk, be yourself. So we have also at this time Mars in your eighth house of intimacy. That is the one sort of scruffy bit about this time, because the Mars in the eighth house can show that there's some challenge in that area. It can also be that there is a difference of opinion, a difference of values, a difference of point of view, especially around money, issues around money. Venus rules your house of communication, and yeah, and also that eighth house of money. So there might be something that needs discussing about money, or something that you need to sort of make clear. There may be need to get clear about how you're dealing with money or values, how you're working with other people around those things. Saturn, Neptune in your house of income, possessions, family, support from family or whatever is in opposition to that Mars for a few days before and after this time. It's separating now and by this time. The most intense part of that was before this. So an intense pressure and intense intensity perhaps around conversation or around the quality of the story of money, for example. So yeah, that's another way of looking at that. Best case scenario is Mars in the eighth house is also great sex, especially with Venus in the fifth ruling it. So feisty, hot, whatever. I mean, it's not going to apply to obviously everyone here, but why not? Take what you can. Mercury is now direct in the sixth house. And so that also shows in opposition to Pluto, which is weakening now, as Mercury is slowly stationing, moving direct as of the 11th of August, slow, moving forward, still trining Saturn, Neptune, opposing Pluto, sextiling Mars, sextiling Uranus. It was a big part of that kite formation that we saw when we had all of those, the Grandeur trine at the moon, and Mercury was approaching this sextile, and it's now separating out from that opposition to Pluto. It's part of the mystical rectangle that I talked about in the beginning. So with having that in your sixth house, there's something also about your attention to how you deal with everyday chores, everyday obstacles and difficulties, dealing with your health, dealing with um, the stuff that you just have to do. You know, the sixth house is basically the dumping ground for everything we really don't want to do, but we have to do. The sun is there, so it makes it all easier. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to put some focus in there, a little bit more energy in there, and you see the clarity of purpose around that. Um, and of course, for you, you have the moksha houses, so the Uranus in the fourth, Mars in the eighth, and Pluto in the 12th, which are very strongly highlighted in that air trine, the grand air trine. And so there can be something really powerful about what is going on in your unconscious mind or in the depths of your understanding of your family, of your psychological nature, of your emotional nature. Certainly change and challenge are involved in that, but it's not something that you can't overcome because we're looking at a very strong blessing for a vision of how to show up, how to be there for yourself and others at this time, especially if this involves your children, something to do with your children, something to do with being there in the way that you show up in general, being of nurturing care, because we're talking about a Cancer fifth house for Pisces. So again, great opportunity to create, great opportunity to start a practice of deep introspection with all that's going on here. And to, especially with that Mercury now direct in your sixth house, to try and set yourself up in a very practical way around how you do your work or how you do your deal with your habits and taking care of yourself over day-to-day stuff. Jupiter rules your career as well, Pisces. I almost forgot to mention. So Jupiter is your ruler, ruling the first as well as the 10th. And so it's even more significant because those are two angular houses and they're being favored by a Jupiter exalted. And so this is your status, your reputation, career ambition, family, parents, yourself obviously participating in all of that, and how you want all of that to show up in your life going forward. I think I'll leave it there. I think this is way longer than I expected in this video. Anyway, there we are, and I will see you in the next video, Pisces. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.